Good afternoon, everyone. I know we still have folks logging in for the training, but I am going to get us started. My name is Katie Moore. I am the RFP lead in the multifamily division, and we are very excited today to offer you the first of two live trainings to go over the new Multifamily Scoring Wizard that is in the portal. This is a project that we are very excited to be rolling out this year. The Wizard is going to replace the Excel version of the self-scoring worksheet that many of us are familiar with. And this is just going to be what we feel will be a really excellent improvement for the application process this year for scoring. And it's moving us further in the direction, the long-term vision of trying to integrate into the system as much as we can. So we're very excited. This is the first of two training opportunities. We'll go over the Wizard. We'll do a live demo. There will be time for questions at the end, and this will be recorded and posted to our website so that you can refer back to it as needed. So without taking up too much more time, I'm going to turn it over to Chris Larson, who is going to introduce himself and then give you an overview and the presentation. Thank you.
So, hello everyone. My name is Chris Larson, and I'm from the IT department here at Minnesota Housing. And like Katie said, we're very excited to be rolling out this project that we work collaboratively with across the division to roll out to all you. So we're very excited to do that. All right, we'll start. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the agenda for today is going to do a quick overview of the features and functions. Then I'm going to go through some general instructions. Then we're going to go into a live demo, which is always exciting to do, but we're pretty confident in the system. And then at the end, we're going to take some questions. And I'll be taking more of the technical questions, and Katie will be more of the business. So anything related to program, obviously it's not my forte, but if there's anything else, bits and bytes, I'll be happy to answer that for you. So just an overview, we're excited to announce this new scoring wizard, like Katie said, replacing the Excel version of the worksheet for the 2021 consolidated RFP. So it's a new tool for the built on the customer portal that we rolled out in 2017, and it went live as of yesterday. So the big thing is, if you use this in the past, it's definitely a different user experience. The idea is you're entering some project data, and then based off that, it's doing some auto calculations to determine how many points you're awarded and can claim. It does some rule validation to make sure that you're qualifying for those points. Then you're going to submit that through the portal as opposed to uploading Excel version to your checklist. And then that starts an internal review. So some of the prime features and functions, first off, like it's described, it is a wizard, so it guides you through the scoring process. You're entering information. The scoring wizard identifies the points you're eligible for based on what information you've provided. So it's obviously only as good as what you provided. And there are some rules in place to make sure that you can't take too many units in certain areas. But overall, it's just keep knowing that you must go back to the scoring guide to make sure that the points that you're getting awarded that you do qualify for. You can't catch everything. One of the real cool things is how you can create test scenarios. So if you're not sure how claiming certain criteria will impact your score, you're able to create some different scenarios and compare those. You're going to be able to create up to 4 scenarios in the scoring wizard. Only one of those can be a final that can be submitted. This system reduces duplicative data entry. So up until now, we've entered things like unit counts many times. Use that number of calculations. Now we're having you do that one time, and then it's going to validate. So any changes to that will roll through all your points. Auto calculates formulas in real time. So computers are really good at doing math and that's what it does for you. So it reduces complexity and ultimately errors. So a lot of times you're not sure which number to use in the denominator. It could be your total units. It could be your assisted unit, some of other things. We've laid out those rules, so all you have to do is enter the data. So like I said, Scoring Wizard does the calculation for you. Lastly, provide easy access to scoring resources. So on every page, you're going to see a scoring guide. You're going to see a Scoring Wizard guide. You're going to see the score sheet, so you're able to see how you're getting your points. So I'm going to show you all of that. So quick overview of general instructions before we go do a live demo. First, you have to log into the portal. So if you don't have a login, please reach out. You can go to our website and request an account. After that, you can either create a new or navigate to an existing project. So if you've spun up a project, you can already do that if you've done that as of yesterday, which there's a number of people that have already spun up projects. Otherwise, you're going to create a new project. Easy button, so a Scoring Wizard button that you're going to click. One thing you're going to do is review, of course, before you accept the terms and conditions, but you either accept them or decline them. If you decline them, it's going to kick you out of the system. So once you accept, you have to do that once per project, but once you've done that, you only have to do that one time. You can create test scenarios or final versions, and you can flip-flop those as necessary. And then you can select the existing ones if you're not creating something new. And then, like a good wizard does, you're going to either follow a path or you can use previous next buttons to be able to navigate through. So there's a couple different places where there's validation. First, there's in-cell validation. So this one in particular is assisted units by size. So based off the total units that were entered, it's not going to allow you to claim more assisted units. So if you only enter 20 for efficiency units and the total units, that's the max you can enter here. So as you can see, it's going to flag those errors. And if you change that, it's going to reflag those errors as you go through to eliminate or reduce mistakes. There's no elimination. There's also cross-clustering validation. So in this particular, HPH and PWD units too high. So the combination of those two was too high. So it's going to flag that. It's going to make you go back and change that before you can move on. And then after that, there's also, once you're claiming your points, so once you get to this page, there's additional validation. So I'll show you how that works, but if you skip from one tab all the way to the end, and there's errors, this page is going to catch those errors. So once you're on the claim page, you can review the awarded points. You can go back and adjust the data. You can see how the points are awarded. So it doesn't bring you directly back, but if you see under preservation, for instance, total units, it says it's total units grid and preservation threshold and preservation tier that make up that. So if you want to go back and change that, that is where you go to update those points. And it goes through. And I'll show you how that works. Of course, there's another validation. So once you've chosen your point, this would also check in if this year we're not having you upload your files to the system. That's going to be done on your checklist as is normal. That's something we'll probably shift in the future, but this is checking to make sure that everything you've done meets the rules. And so you're going to review and address those final validation errors, and then ultimately you're going to submit once you've marked it as final. So that's the quick and dirty version. And now I'm going to bring you right into the customer portal. So as you can see, it probably looks different than a normal viewer should. This red up here just indicates that I'm in a test environment, the UAT. So, but everything else should look the same. If you go to your projects, you can go to your funding rounds. So like we said, as of yesterday at 3:30ish, we launched the 2021 RFP 2022 HTC round 1. So I'm going to start from scratch all the way through. I'm going to show you some of the new features and functions that we have rolled out. So if you go to the funding round, as you can see, there's apply for funding here. So you can go in, launch. So this is a new look and feel. So we're going to just start here, and I'm going to just type in some information. So you can ask them some questions. So have you previously applied, received funding? I have not. Is this a dual application? So this is a new question as of this year. Yes. And then if so, you need to identify the proposal type for each of your projects. So 9% housing tax credit only, and maybe this is a 4% housing tax credit only. Let's default some add enter street address, information, the county. This looks like a free form, but it actually is going to validate. So the only one that's kind of goofy is St. Louis. You just have to type FANT, and if you look, there's some help text here. Enter your latitude, longitude, and then you're going to hit next. On this page, so it's project snapshot application. So this is your best, what you're applying for at application. Obviously, this can change through the process. But this is giving you, so I'm going to enter a number of units. Your project 100% permits for housing. Answer these questions. So your project includes homeless units. You do not meet the definition of the HPH. No. Tribal lands, not. Does your project intend to serve tribal populations? And again, you can go back and change this information afterwards. Housing infrastructure bonds, yeah, sure is. Does your project include development and construction costs? Yes. If you choose that, it's going to have you enter your total development costs. So again, I'm just putting in this random data. So you can see, because you need to enter this. So obviously I can go back previous, I'll go into it, let's go next. Sponsor, if you have a sponsor, sponsors, and this is some general information, just going to default to me because it's easy. I'm putting a phone number, project sponsor address, and then is your project sponsored by tribal government? So you need to answer that question, yes or no. If not, hit next. So now here's some dependent questions. So does your project include a developer as part of the project team? So obviously if you choose yes, you're going to have to fill out that information. I'm going to just say no for ease. Now, the next question is, does your project include a processing agent? Again, yes or no. You can enter that information and just say no. And then you go to the next page. You can review the information that you've entered. You can go back and change any of that information. And then once you're ready, you're going to hit Create Project. So one of the newest parts to this process, once you've created a project, you're able to add team members to that. So this doesn't automatically put them onto your team. This will send a request to an internal staff member to add those to your team. So please read the information that was presented here. Otherwise, if you want to add members, add team member. Review all this information, and then add the team member. It's going to tell you what's going to happen if you do add them. I'm just going to provide their email address. And then you want to identify the team member role that they're going to be playing. So I'll say they're the attorney. And then you're going to access type. So if you want them just to be able to read it, just to see the data, you can put read. Otherwise, you can read write. And then you can add comments if necessary. You can either save or save in new if you want to enter more. I'm going to show you can add additional people later. I'm just going to do save. As you can see, I now have that here, the project team. I can clear it, I can edit it, I can delete it. You can do that again later. I'll show you how that works. So once you're done, I've added all the people that I want on my team. I can now click Finish the View Project. So now I have this fancy new project. Here's the new tab, so request a team access. As you can see, you're going to see who's been added and the status. So you can't edit this. You'll be able to see once they've been updating the information. So when this is complete, you'll see a complete here. Otherwise, this page is primarily the same. So now, like we talked about, the main reason for this is the scoring wizard. So you're going to want to come over. So once you're ready, you're going to launch the scoring wizard. So as you can see the project information up here with the proposal type. project details. D number, property number are assigned internally. So if you have a D number and a property, that'll be assigned. Otherwise, they'll create a new one for you. So please read the disclaimer here, knowing what you're getting yourself into. But again, there are many guides. There's a scoring guide, there is a scoring wizard, and also a score sheet to review. So once you've accepted, you're going to be brought into the scoring wizard. So keep in mind, you must submit this by July 15th, 2021, similar to the checklist. So you'll get updates, so please, we have the information there. So you do have to hit submit. So as you can see, this is the first time here, so I can only create a new one because there's nothing existing. So I'm going to start with a test. Start my test scenario, and that's automatically going to launch my scoring wizard. So just since this is a web app versus an Excel, the nice thing is, we can make changes if necessary if there's any mistakes, but you also can scroll in and you can change the size. So if it's harder, if you need to scroll in or scroll out, you can do that and make it bigger. What you're going to want to do first, some information, you're going to want to name this. This is a test scenario. So I'm going to just, I've done this a number of times, so I'm going to say 4% only with deferred, for instance. You can name it anything you want. Just helps you identify your different test scenarios. As you can see, you can change it here if you want, and that's how you're going to change it later. One of the first questions you're going to have is, where's your project located? This does drive other questions. It can be changed, but it does drive other questions. So I'm going to say I'm in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Is my project a scattered site property? Is rare? But if it is, you click yes. That doesn't drive any other questions, but it's for informational purposes. If you have any unacceptable practice points, again, also very rare, but if you do, that's where you'd enter that information. So here's your first question. So total units by size is replaced, like I said, 12, 13, 14 different spots where this was entered or used in calculations. So you want to enter your total units by size. You can enter any, and it's going to total this at the end, so 120. You can hit save and next, and away we go. So first off, we need to meet the minimum threshold. So as you can see up here in the information, you can download the 2020-23 self-scoring worksheet, 2022 scoring guide, and the scoring wizard user guide. Also now you're going to be entering assisted unit. So here's the first place where unit the validation occurs. So if I try to enter, for instance, too many, it's going to tell me I can only enter 10. So obviously you can enter less. You can enter information, so I have 97 total assisted units. And it's going to ask you some preference questions. Will your project have eventual tenant ownership? Yes or no? I'm going to say yes, it does. Was your project determined by Minnesota Housing through the pre-application process to be eligible for the innovative construction techniques? So if you choose no, you don't need to meet any other criteria. But if you hit yes, you do need to choose a preference. So if you reduce the total construction cost by at least 10, or reduce the time a project is under construction by at least 20. So you need to at least meet one of those. Next section is deeper in targeting. So my project includes project-based rental assistance for 100% of units. If you choose yes, you do not need to meet this. That qualifies. Otherwise, if you say no, you're going to have to meet deeper in targeting. So for these two, you need to meet both of them. So this one, you need to have at least 2% of the total units meeting the county 30% MPSP, and also 3% of the total units at or below the HAP, the HAP standard. So I'm going to purposely be under that. And I'll show you what will happen. So I'm just going to go one. So I do 100. So now, minimum threshold. So as you can see, based on my project location, it changed my questions. So if I chose rural, it would have displayed a rural question. Otherwise, obviously, if I'm not in the rural area, I can't meet that threshold. So if I do, if you want to go back, you can change that. It'll give you different questions. Are you applying for 9% tax credits? If you choose no, you don't need to meet this. So you don't have to select anything there. Everything just disappears. If you choose yes, you're going to have to at least meet one of them. So please review these, and identify which ones you need. I'm just going to need 3 of those. So please review that information for your particular project. So now I'm going to hit save and next, and you're going to see an error occur. So because I did not have the number of units entered in the deeper end targeting, do not satisfy the minimum threshold. So I need to go back and change that value. So there's a number of features throughout the system that will do that. So I'm going to come back, and as I review this, oh shoot, I need to get 2%. So I change that. Now when I go forward, I'm now on the next page. So now we're entering the greatest need tenant targeting section. Again, here's some information at the top, more links to the guides. If you want to hide that, go ahead and hit hide. If you want to show it, you can. Now what you're going to have are a number of threshold questions. So what age group is your project restricted to? If you're doing seniors 55 plus, that's going to display questions about seniors housing. If you unclick that, it's going to disappear. My project meets high priority homeless threshold. Sure does. And so based off that, I'm going to say it's youth and children, 33%. And then that displays continuum of care. So same thing. And then there's another validation here where it wouldn't allow me to enter more units than I could up here. So say I entered 41 and I try to go to the next page, it's not going to let me. But I showed that a number of times. You're going to see those types of flags coming up. So, and then based off that, because it's not restricted to a particular age group, I'm getting this option down here, people with disabilities. I'm going to click yes. Did I submit a free app to section 811? I chose yes. The max I can do here is 11, and the combination between this and HPH can be above 25. So if I did this and I try to do save and next, it's going to get mad at me. And enter that. Once I hit 11, but I'm over, so if I hit that, it's going to say HPH and PWD, the unit's too high. So like I said, I'll go back and I can adjust this down, and that's under 25. Now I can hit save and next. Oh. It catches it. So now continuum of care cannot be above the 10. So based on my changes, I'm realizing that it's having these effects. So the system is catching these things, something that I would have missed. So at 10, I go next, and now I'm allowed to move on. So there's a couple of different ways. So as you can see, if you've used the Excel version in the past, you're doing a combination of units, priorities, and points at the same time. This is doing it, you're just not seeing it on the same page. But if you go to your claim point section, you can do that anytime. So as I go through each one of these tabs, it's going to be building my points. But at any time, you can go to the claim point section and you're going to see what you've qualified for so far. So as you can see, I've gone through greatest need. I can come here, qualify for large family housing, plus extended large family housing, not senior housing, HPH, continuum of care, and people with disabilities tier 2. So I can see the points. I can also, just because I'm awarded, you're awarded doesn't mean you have to take those. If you didn't want this, you can unclaim that, and you'll see up here that you point to claimer 33, but you only claim 24. I'm going to go back and claim that, and then I'm going to just go back to where I was, surplus income. So I'm on the preservation page. So what preservation threshold does your project need? So if I choose one of those, it's going to give me a second question. Which preservation tier does your project need? So if I do tier 1, it's going to ask me about the number of existing federally assisted units. It's going to give you a total of how many you can put in there. Up to, that's the total unit, that's the denominator. Otherwise, assisting federal assistance tier 2, it's going to give me different questions. Rent and income is restricted to 50% MTSP. So I'm going to say that. Rental assistance, I'm not going to claim that. Serves as well as income. So enter non-rental assistance. Units with rents restricted to households with incomes at 50% MTSP, and then further restricted to 30% MTSP. So I'm going to say 120 on each. And again, this is just a general scenario, made up fictional scenario. So now on the bottom here, do you agree to extend the long-term affordability? I click yes. And as long as I've entered everything, I can move on. If I don't enter everything on this page, it's going to check on the claim point section and say you didn't answer some of the questions. So you will be required to, but you can move ahead. Now we're on the supporting community and economic development and geographic choice page. The first section is geographic choice. So if you'll notice with scoring guide and score sheet, this is not in direct alignment. This actually aligns with our community profiles mapping. So nice thing is you can launch that right from here. So if you come out and display our community profile, hit OK. So you're going to see the map. You're going to choose location. So you can do one or two, but you can add your address here, or you can locate the property. So I'm going to just do this. As you can see, it's going to break down the points. So need for more affordable housing, workforce housing, transit, rural, and tribal. So based off what the area, it's going to give me the points. So what you're going to do is take this information and enter it back on the other page. So the easiest thing to do is if you have two screens, open up two screens. Otherwise, you'll just have to flip back and forth. So this one, 10. The second one, if you do qualify for 6 points, you need to go back and make sure you identify which reason that you're getting it. Is it top job center or net 5-year growth community, or is it individual employer growth community? So I'm going to say I looked at the guide and that's what I got. Access to transit, 4, rural tribal, what is your QCT? So again, I'm just taking that information and entering it here. And the reason why it doesn't automatically populate is just because there are some reasons. There's sometimes where the scattered site properties, there's large properties, this can vary. So in further years, we might have this integrate directly and enter the data, but until now, this needs to be entered in here directly. Walk score. So this is your gross walk score. So if you go to walkscore.com, which gives you a link here, see what it picks up. Actually, no. So next area, there's my walk score 72. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to enter this information. So this is doing a calculation based off of the number entered here and the geographic location. So if you go to that points page, you'll see the calculations website. Move away. Second part is supporting community and economic development. So does your project contribute to the active implementation of a community development initiative? Yes, sure is. Does your project provide equitable development? Yes. And then here, does your project team include and or partner with Black, Indigenous, and people of color owned, women-owned business enterprises? Here goes. 2 or more entities with partnerships. So now if I want to see how my points calculated, I can just, like I said, move right to the claim points and go to geographic choice. I can see the points that I got. I can see walkability. It gave me 1 point based off of geographic location and the walkability score. And then supportive community economic development. So this is in line with the guides. So you enter it just for ease, but otherwise it does lay this out with the rest of the guide. So this will give me the points: community development initiative, equitable development, rural and tribal. I think I'll do, and then getting these points. And again, if you don't want to claim them, you don't have to. So now I'm going to go back. Keep going. Efficient use of scarce resources. So you're going to enter first off, you're going to enter your total development cost. So enter that. And then I'm going to enter how much capital funding has been secured, awarded, or committed. As you can see, it's doing the percentage in real time. What are the other contributions? Too much, as you can see, obviously you can't put in that much, it's going to flag you. Intermediary costs, I'm going to say about that much. So as you can see, if you change anything, it's going to change the percentages in real time. So Like I said, if you don't see the points that you're getting, just click the plan points. Now let's hit next. Now we're to the building characteristics. So again, if you want any information, here's your guide. If you want to know how to answer these questions. Does your project meet the universal design criteria? Yes. So this has a sub-question. So there's two different, you can have buildings with an elevator, you can have buildings without an elevator, or in some rare instances, there can be a combination of with and without an elevator. So if you choose with an elevator, you're going to get questions based off that. If you choose without, you're going to get and if you do both, you're going to see both. So the information that you entered, even if it's hidden, will still be stored as long as you don't leave the page. Once you hit save and next, anything that's hidden like this, so if you did this, all that information that you put in and after you hit save and next would be gone. So, but if you stay on this page, you're going to still see that information. Does your project meet the standards for smoke-free buildings? Yes. And does your project meet enhanced sustainability? Yeah, tiers 1 and 3. Again, refer to the scoring guide. So now I'm going to hit save and next, and I have completed my scoring. And now I can see various need, price available 33. I claim 33. So by default, you're going to claim them. And if you need to go back, universal design, you can click this, and you're going to see up here that you're not claiming. You're getting more points than you're claiming. Once you've done that, if there were any errors, it would display them here, and I will show you. So now if you went back and said, oh, shoot, I wanted to change something here, you can go back all the way to the beginning. So now you've done everything and verified all your information is accurate. Well, if you change this and say, oh, I didn't have 10 efficiency, I had 0. So now obviously that had an effect. So there's two ways. So if you did just jump and you made that change and you try to go to your claim points, it's going to flag all the errors. So anywhere you need to go back and change. So assisted units, there's those incomes. So it's going to identify where and what you need to do. So you can go back to these pages, and you'll see the errors. Oh, this is the 0 max, so I click 0. So the best way to do it is if you've made a change, just do the save and next as you go through, and then that will make sure that it's flagging all the errors. So anytime you've exceeded the total numbers, as you can see, there's no errors here. Oh, here we go. I can't enter that many, so you're going to come back and adjust these. Like I said, just click save and next. You can move around if you want. This is the best way to capture all of them. So now I probably have fixed all the errors. I can go back to claim point. See, as you can see, I cleared all the validation errors. So once that's done, there's another review process. So if you want to hit save and review, that's going to bring you to the next page, and it's going to give you all the information that you entered and all the points that you received at the bottom right here. And it's going to give you a grid of all the points. So again, it's going to show you the data used, max points, points available, points claimed by category, and by question. Again, if you go back and you can modify that, this will update in real time. So if you look at the bottom here, you're going to see a note. The score sheet is saved as test error. So like I said, you have to make it a final version before you can submit it. But if you wanted to, you can at least verify the information is accurate. So verification successful, all data verified. But again, you can't submit it because it's not a final version, even though it is prior to the date. So what you'll want to do, go back to your score sheet setup. And if you want, you can go back to the different score sheets. As you can see, I do. So now if you like, now that you have existing ones, you can choose this, and it gives you some options. First off, this just clears your selection if you have multiple. You can delete it. A lot of work, so I don't want to delete it, but if I said I can go return to the preview screen, or I can just delete it. there are any files that identify that this cannot be anything deleted, this is gone, you can't retrieve it. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go no, return to previous screen. I also can clone this, so I don't have to re-enter all the information. I can clone it. So I'm going to create, it's just going to add copy to the end, but just say this happened to be like 9% only senior housing. So this is going to now be an exact copy of what I just had. So I'm going to make a change. So I'll say I did senior housing. As you can see, I know it's 92 units. So now I'll be getting points for senior housing. Right, instead of large family housing. And then I'll go back to my score sheet. So then you can go through, make all the changes you want. And then when you go back, you can compare which scenario is the best for your project. So now I can see what's available. 4% only with deferred, I get 157. 5% only with senior housing, I get 138. So at that point, you can see they're both test scenarios. Again, if I wanted to create another copy, I could. Otherwise, I'm moving forward with this one. So I'm going to open the score sheet. I'm going to change this to final version. And now, if I want, I didn't change anything. I don't need to go through each of the pages. It's always a good practice to do so. But I'm just going to skip to the end and show you what changed. So now I have the report. All the information is the same. The buttons have changed. So instead of just having verify only, I also verify and submit. So this does the same thing as the verify only. It just also gives the option of submitting it. Just going to make sure that all the data is accurate. Give you validation successful. And then if I submit it, it's going to lock it down, and I won't be able to change anything. But rest assured, if you realize you need to make the changes prior to the scoring deadline, please contact us at mhfa.app@statemn.us, and we will unlock it for you, and you'll be able to use that. So I'm going to submit this. Again, gives you a message, yep, this has been done, congratulations, you have submitted this. We get notification, and again, I just want to remind you, you can unlock it even after this. So if I click finish, it's going to bring me back to my project. If I want to go look at those again, I just have to go into Scoring Wizard. As you can see, one is now status is submitted. So the difference now is I cannot delete it, but I can open it, but I can't edit anything, and the only thing I'm going to see is that final page of information. So you can download this, you can create a PDF. On the top and bottom there's a button, print a PDF. There's your version. You can email this, print it, write on it if you want. As you can see, you can enter, change any data. But if you come down and you go back to choose different score sheet, what you can do is you can still use this other one. So you can open this one, you can clone it, you can delete it. One thing I forgot to mention, you can clone this one. If you do clone it, you can now have an editable version. You obviously, so if I clone this version, I was submitted, I get a copy of that. I cannot make it a final because I have one submitted, but I can now go through and change it. So then if I go back, you'll see I have 3. The max is 4, so if I did create 4, and I come back, as you can see, I don't have the option of creating any new ones. I would have to delete one. And now I'm able to create a test scenario again. project. So, like I said, if there's any need to make any changes, please contact us. That's before the deadline. You'll get notifications, but please remember, just like the application checklist, you need to submit this prior to that deadline to be qualified, to be eligible. On that note, that concludes the demo, and I will open it up to any technical or business questions.
Hey, Chris, it's Katie. Thank you for going over this. I am not sure if people can unmute themselves on GoToWebinar, so if you have questions, type them into the question box, and then Chris, I'll just, there are a couple in here, so I'll answer the ones that I can, and then I'll read the ones that you can go into more. Would that make sense and work for you?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So the first question is related to dual applications and the financial readiness to proceed categories, and what happens if there is a different score based on the structure. So based on the changes that we made to the QAP this year, the score remains the same in financial readiness, other contributions, and intermediary costs, regardless of how the project is structured. So I would encourage folks to look at that category again and within the self-scoring worksheet to see how that calculation changes. But one of the great things about this year, in addition to the wizard, is that there is only one project score, regardless of if it's a 9%, a 4%, a deferred only, or a dual application. The scores will be the same across the board. So that is the first one. Another one, what is the definition of an assisted unit? So again, that is in the self-scoring worksheet and the scoring guide. But generally speaking, if the self-scoring worksheet is referencing assisted or restricted, that is a tax credit unit for the purposes of a tax credit application, and then a deferred unit for purposes of deferred application. So any unit essentially that is going to be a tax credit or assisted with deferred funding. So kind of the shortest answer, but then go make sure you're referring back to the self-scoring worksheet for more details. But the shortest answer is any unit that's not a market rate unit. And then, so Chris, there are two more, so I'm going to read the first one to you. So if you are resubmitting a prior year's project for this funding round, will it pull the data based on the prior project's D number? So do you want to talk more about that? And then maybe some other details about what will or will not be saved as people are creating test worksheets?
The short answer is not pulling any data that was submitted in prior years into the scoring. That's just short. It does not reference any previous years. If you're submitting for a new one, you need to re-enter that information. What was the second part?
And then maybe, and you might have missed, or I might have missed this, but just to re-summarize for folks, if people are creating multiple test worksheets for the same project, will any of that information be saved, or will they need to restart each test worksheet over?
If you're going to do if you want to create a test one, so it does save all the information separately. And like I said, if you do create a clone of it, it's going to have all the information. So this one was a clone, this is a copy. It has all the information that was entered. So exact replica, but you can obviously change that as you go through. So you can come through and save the next. You can change, so assuming this stuff is primarily the same.
All right.
Obviously, I entered Yeah, so it's going to be, it's as you go through, it's an exact copy. So if you created 3 copies of one, you're going to have 3 exact copies with all the same data endpoints.
Great. Another question, can you add more team members after you've started the application?
You can. So if you come to requested, so if you're on your project, you click your requested team access, go over here, click new, and it gives you the options.
And then another question, this did not come into the chat box, but I think it is helpful to highlight this. So say someone is entering their project into Portal and they select certain characteristics and then they decide after the fact they want to change project characteristics. Can you just talk a little bit about how that impacts the scoring wizard, if at all, and how these two kind of talk to each other when they're spinning up an application and building their checklist versus doing the scoring?
So for this year, there is no impact. So if you're choosing your characteristics, this does not affect the scoring. So if you're going to update this, if there are things that you've done in here, you need to make sure that you're updating it on the scoring as well. So they are separate by design. So it does not, any characteristic is not going to affect how you trade, how you affect, it will not affect the scoring.
All right, thank you. And that's a good segue as a reminder. So our application deadline is at noon, and so you'll have to hit submit in both places by that noon deadline. So you'd have to submit the application in Portal as well as submit your final version of the wizard. So you'd have to do that in both places in order to meet that application deadline. Another question about dual application. Does only one score sheet in the scoring wizard need to be submitted? Correct. So if you're doing a dual application, you only need to submit one worksheet in the scoring wizard for that project. That's a great question. That's probably for a lot of folks that do dual applications, this might be actually one of the biggest changes that you're going to notice because it's so different to how we've done it in the past. We've always had multiple worksheets depending on the structure. So if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us as you're working through that. But dual applications, they will submit one worksheet and it'll be the same score for both. And then another question here. Oh, sorry, my screen just went blank for a minute. Printing or pointing to the page about how to copy the worksheet would be helpful. So do you want to, I'm not sure if this question, maybe I'll ask the person who submitted this to elaborate more. Are you asking us to walk through that again, or like links or clear information within the system how to do that? If you could add more context. Oh, just point to the page. So Chris, do you want to point to that page again on how to copy the worksheet?
Yep. Yeah. So you'll just want to launch the scoring wizard, and then you just select the one that you want to copy, and then you'll click this button down here. This white button says Clone Selected Score Sheet. Just click that. And then that's going to, like I said, just add copies at the end and then just rename it to whatever you want. But once that's been done, that's it. Just made an exact copy.
And Chris, will you guys have in that user guide kind of some screenshots to help people? Because I'm sure they're watching this today and in another month it might be hard to remember. So will there be screenshots and help in that user guide for this?
There is. So if you come in here into the download the scoring wizard guide, there are a lot of screenshots. So this walks you through the whole process. So in detail, launching the scoring wizard, screenshots of what to do. So everything I've gone through today, it will be described in here, so each section. So super easy. Like I said, it was done by our communications department.
All right, thank you, Chris. And I apologize that tornado sirens are going off where I am, so I'm hoping that isn't causing a lot of background issues in terms of noise. But so another question we had is about the intent to apply checklist and asking if it's missing checklist items. The answer is no. There are no checklist items required with the intent to apply this year. The deadline is just the deadline to spin up your project in portal if you intend to submit a full application. So by that May 20th deadline, we're asking folks to enter their project into the portal so that we can do some analysis. There's a lot of data that's collected as you guys are spinning that project that we use internally to help us do a variety of things: workload planning, connecting with the legislature for resources, a lot of different things. So this year, the deadline is just to spin up the project, and then there are no associated checklist items. Everything is due at that July application deadline this year. And then, Chris, another question for you. Can you change the name of the project after you start it?
You cannot. It can be changed, but you need to make a request to change the name. I don't think so. So actually, you can change the name of the project and the address. You can anything that's editable, you can change. That's one of them you can actually change the name of. So zip code. As you can see, as you edit it, you can see what you can change or not change. Same thing with project snapshot, the information that you entered on here. You can see if you would change your proposal type or number of units, construction costs, that's where that can be changed. So you can just hit edit if you want, and it'll give you the fields that are editable. Otherwise, you'll see a pencil here. But if you wanted to change the score sheet, you can also, and the name of these, you can do that as well by doing this. And in turn, the score sheets can be changed. So.
All right, other questions? So far, we've covered everything that has come into the question box. We'll just leave a few more minutes here for folks to type stuff in if you have questions. And in the meantime, just want to remind everybody that this training was recorded, so we will be posting it on the website, as well as the scoring training that happened earlier this week. Those will both be posted to the website hopefully early next week, and we'll send an e-news out with that information, and then we'll also send an email to everybody who was on this training today so that you don't miss that, and you can find where you can go back and refer to this later. And also just a reminder, if you're having questions about this, we do have on our website the email contact to submit questions about this portal, the workbook, any other systems type questions that you have. And then if you have kind of non-technology related questions, we're asking everybody this year to leverage the Tech Assist form that's linked on our website and in pretty much every e-news that we send, so that if you don't already have an underwriter assigned to you, you will through that process, and then internally we will triage and get your questions over to the right people so that you can get answers as quickly and efficiently as possible. And I am not seeing any other questions come in, so Chris, I will turn it back to you to kind of wrap us up for the day. And thank you, everybody, for attending. And we look forward to using this new system this year.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Hopefully this new system is user-friendly, but again, this is brand new. This is the first year coming out, so there can be some things that happen, but hopefully that with the new system, we can easily address any issues. We haven't seen anything yet, knock on wood. A number of people have already spun up their projects as of yesterday. I mean, just opened yesterday, and we already have a lot of projects already been created. So far, so good. Please, any feedback that you may have, we welcome it. You can send it to the app.mhfa email address that you saw. So thanks for attending, everyone. For the rest of your day.